Hi, I'm Daniel Smith, and I'm here at Estero Bay Preserve for the Colloquium Wetlands field trip. And now I'll take you through. So, as students, we want to learn the relationship between uplands and freshwater wetlands. Wetlands serve as a transition between upland, terrestrial, and aquatic ecosystems. Now, what's interesting about wetlands is the soil is very saturated and undated long enough to drown upland plants, so they can't really live here, and only wetland plants could. So it's an interesting habitat because of those reasons. Something else we look to understand as students in this field trip is the relationship between elevation, hydrology, and fire. Now, what is the role of hydrology and the fire maintaining these ecosystems? Well, it's actually very important. The changes in elevation, although they're very small, they are in the northern regions more commonly than down here in Southwest Florida. But the elevation changes are often measured in just significant small measurements like inches to determine that it's really not much of a change, but these small elevation changes actually change the environment a lot and what happens to it. Now, the elevation determines the hydro period, which is the length of the time that the soil is saturated after it gets rained or flooded. So that plays a variable into how a fire could start, because if the soil is wet for a longer amount of time, then it's less likely for fires to start, which is actually better for the environment. But also, fires do help the environment as they clear out debris and allow life to restart and produce, which is good. Now, if you see in front of us, there are some charred trees that are standing here, and it appears that they're still here, most likely just because of a strong base, but it's very visible that there was a fire here, and that the hydrology of this environment is actually very low because of the high heat in the summer. But it still rains often enough to help the environment to not completely burn and to allow new life to grow. Now, something else that's interesting is the ecosystem services to the uplands and the wetlands of this area. Now, these cool areas offer many interesting things, such as water purification, which is, as the water moves through the ground, through the wetlands, through all these permeable surfaces, it allows the water to be filtered, which is good for the environment, good for the evaporation, good for the animals that live here and the resources it provides, as well as water storage underneath. Now, something else that's interesting is the aquifer recharge, which is the layer of limestone that pulls up water below the ground and just allows it to sit for uses of droughts and other things. Now, if you look over here, it's starting to get a little wetter. I think this is a lower part in the elevation as we're walking downhill. I think it plays a huge part in why these trees are standing taller and not so burnt. But if you look at those, it's a little charred at the bottom, but not at the top, so the fire wasn't as tall here. But back to the habitat and biodiversity that wetlands provide for people and for the animals living here is the two types, the wetlands and where there's a lot of shrubs and bushes, and then there's other surfaces. There's other environments like so what's very interesting about the ecosystem is the carnivorous plants such as the buttwort, and they grow in these nutrient poor soils, which is like what we're walking on here, but this is more padded down because it's a walkway. But these are carnivorous plants that actually eat animals and egrets and other small water plants. Now, what is the role of acquiring, managing, and protecting these water sources? It's allowing it to happen, which is the number one thing. So preservation, which is Estero Bay Preserve, and Southwest Florida actually has a lot of preservation land. So that is just like the main part of acquiring it. You have to get the land to preserve it. Now, managing it is to just protect it and regulate it and allow nature to take its place, like the fires to happen. Do not put them out. Do not let humans trash this place. Keep a close eye on it, which I think they do well over here. It's a very nice area. And last and most importantly, protecting it, which is a part of managing it. Like I just said, there's a bug flying around my ear. But, oh, and look at that. Some beautiful nature out here. It's just a wonderful place. And a key concept I'd like to touch on is the role of hydrology and fire in maintaining these ecosystems, because as you walk through here, when you see with your own eyes, there's not many charred areas, but where they are, they're completely gone. So it shows the elevation and the hydrology and the way the water gets held up and can prevent the fires. And maybe it's in certain spots, and it lets you learn a lot about the environment. And thanks for taking a walk with me today.